Everyone saw me as just another waitress, the one who brings the menu, cleans the table, and smiles even when the customer is rude. I wore the same worn-out uniform every day, a rumpled white shirt, an apron with coffee stains that were no longer coming out, and worn-out shoes from walking back and forth. It was invisible, as if I were part of the cafeteria furniture. Nobody remembered my name. Some clients just called me girl. Others didn't even look at my face. But there was a man who saw me differently, and that's what changed everything. My name is Camila. I'm 19 years old and I've been working since I was 16. I started selling candy at traffic lights, then I went to a used clothing store, and now I'm at this corner cafe. It's not a big deal. 3 tables outside, 10 inside, cracked white tile, always with the smell of frying in the air. But it was a job, and I needed him like someone who needs air. My mother has been sick for a long time, a silent disease which slowly eats away at the body, and the little I gain there is what keeps our medicines up to date. My father, it disappeared when I was 8 years old. I don't know if I'm angry with him or missing him, maybe both. I started there because one day, by chance, I went in to buy a pastry and saw a crooked sign saying, "Help needed." I entered. A man with white hair, a coat stained with sauce, and a strange calmness in his eyes answered me. It was Mr. Walter. He asked if I knew how to take an order. I said no. He laughed. "Then you will learn," he replied. And he put me inside. So it began. The first month, I was a wreck. He would drop a glass, take the wrong order, forget to charge a cover charge, but Sue Walter never raised his voice. Never. He said that everyone has their time, that making mistakes is part of it. It was a huge contrast to the others inside, especially with Paula. Paula was the oldest of the employees. I don't know how old she is, but she must have been in her 40s. Heavy makeup, hair tied into a tight bun, and a way of speaking that cut. She commanded more than the manager, always with a frown and a look of disdain. From the first day, she made a point of showing that I was not welcome. She ordered me to clean the floor that she herself made dirty, changed the table orders just to make me make mistakes, and took the tips that were left at my cash register. He said in a sweet and false voice, "Ah, it must have been a mistake. That was my table, Camilla." At first I tried to understand. Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe she thought I wanted to take her place. But that wasn't it. I just wanted to work in peace. But peace is a luxury for those at the bottom of the pyramid. The other employees followed her example. They laughed at the jokes and called me apprentice with disdain. The cook was always making jokes. The manager pretended not to see. But Sue Walter saw everything. And even when he was silent, he made a difference. Every now and then he would leave a sandwich reserved for me. Other times, he told me to rest a little, even though the room was full. "Camilla, go and drink some water. It's very hot today," he said, and Paula was boiling inside. One time, a customer dropped a glass of soda. Before I could grab the cloth, Paula shouted, "Camilla, come clean it up since that's all you know how to do." Everyone looked at me. Some laughed. I swallowed hard. When I went to bend down to clean it, Mr. Walter walked by me, took the cloth from my hand, and cleaned it himself. Then he looked at Paula with a look I had never seen on his face. He didn't say anything, but his expression said it all. That gesture marked me. It gave me a shock. Nobody did that for me. I was used to swallowing humiliation, but he protected me in a discreet, almost silent way. I was beginning to wonder why. Why did he care so much about me? I was nothing. Just another employee. There was nothing special. Or I thought I didn't have it. Things started to get really weird after one day when I went to the stockroom to get a soda and heard voices coming from the office. It was Paula. The 3-door. It was Paula. The door was ajar. She was saying angrily, "She's nothing, Walter. Just some random girl. You're destroying the respect the team has for you by treating her like she's special. That's wrong." There was silence. And then he answered in a firm voice, "Camilla is like a daughter to me, Paula. You don't understand. But she deserves that, and much more." I felt my heart accelerate. Like a daughter? Why did he say that? That was playing in my head for the rest of the day. I pretended I didn't hear, but my mind wouldn't let me forget. I never had a father figure present. It was always my mother and I against the world. And now, out of nowhere, this man saying he saw me as his daughter. That confused me. But at the same time, it warmed something inside me, as if a forgotten part of me had been touched. After that day, the looks became heavier. Paula became even more cruel. He said I was trying to buy the boss's heart, that I must have been wanting to get ahead in life by crooked paths. The other employees laughed. One of them said it was only a matter of time before I stole the manager's place. I laughed on the outside, but he cried inside. Things got worse when one day I arrived and realized that my tip drawer was empty. I had left 25 riets. There. It wasn't much, but it was what would pay for my mother's medicine. When I questioned, Paula said in a cynical voice, "Camilla, you must have counted wrong. Or maybe you lost it along the way. You've been very distracted lately." I went to talk to the manager. She said she couldn't do anything without proof. I felt helpless, small. I wanted to give up. That day, after work, Sue Walter called me aside. He asked how I was. I tried to smile, but I couldn't. I ended up collapsing. I cried. I talked about my mother, the tips, the humiliations. He listened to me in silence. Then he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Camila, you're strong. I see you every day facing the world with your head held high. And I wish I had been there for you before. But I'm here now, and I'm going to do what I can to protect you." This disconcerted me. It was as if he wanted to tell me something, but he didn't have the courage. I left with a heavy heart, and the certainty that something was about to happen. Days later, Paula said, loud and clear, that I was using Sue Walter to gain advantages, that he treated me like a daughter just because he must have been feeling alone, that I should put myself in my place. That hurt me like a slap. But I didn't respond. I just looked at her and said, "One day you will understand that respect is not demanded, it is earned." I had no idea that the truth that was about to come would turn everything upside down. Have you ever felt angry about a silent injustice? Comment there! After that day when I heard Sue Walter say that he saw me as a daughter, something inside me broke and at the same time ignited. It was as if I had touched an open wound that he had been hiding for years. I didn't know what to do with it. A part of me wanted to ask, wanted to understand, but another part, I was afraid. Fear of the answer, fear of creating hope in something impossible. So I pretended nothing had happened. I continued waiting tables, smiling as if I didn't carry a whole world on my shoulders, pretending that his words hadn't moved me. But someone noticed something was different. And that person was Paula. She started watching me like a shadow. Every time Walter approached me to ask if I needed anything, there she was, with that sour look in her eyes, as if she were about to spit venom. And it didn't take long for that to happen. Paula started making small comments in front of others, always with that joking tone that sounds like a sheathed knife. Look at her again, getting special attention from the boss. Be careful, huh? Otherwise she'll steal your place too. The others laughed, not because they thought it was funny, but because no one there had the courage to face Paula. She was the type who knew secrets, who kept favors done and mistakes made. He had a sharp tongue and the respect of someone who preferred not to be his target. Over time, the whispers increased. The looks became heavier. The manager, Donna Ivonede, started to treat me coldly. The most difficult shifts became mine. The most thankless hours, too. On busy days, I was assigned to sections with more tables and fewer waiters. Still, I didn't complain. Cleaned, served, smiled. But inside, I was falling apart. The last straw came on a Saturday morning. The restaurant was packed. The line for breakfast wrapped around the corner. I was sweating profusely with trays, coming and going, orders piling up, customers impatient. And then, a customer, a man in his 50s, well-dressed with a gold watch and an authoritative voice, called me. He had ordered a hot mix and coffee. I brought the order as I always did, but when I placed the plate on the table, he looked at me with contempt. "It took too long. It must be cold in here by now." "I can change it for you, sir. No problem." It's the least, right? But I imagine you must be too busy with the owner of the house. The sentence landed like a punch in the stomach. He said in a low voice, but enough for the table next to him to hear. And people listened, and they laughed. I blushed instantly, my hands shaking. "Sorry, sir. I'll be right back with another one." I went back to the kitchen and hid in the storage room for a few minutes. I took a deep breath. My hands were sweaty, my chest was tight. I felt like I was going to disappear. And Paula appeared. She walked in pretending to get napkins, but her smile showed that she knew. I knew what I was doing. "It's starting to circulate, see? People are talking. You can't hide it for long, Camilla. But don't worry, we understand. Girls like you do whatever it takes to get ahead in life, right?" She left before I could respond. I didn't have the strength. That night I came home and my mother realized something was wrong, but I couldn't explain it. How could I tell her that they were accusing me of things that never happened? How can I say that they were treating me as if I had sold my dignity? The following week, the rumor was already a silent scandal in the restaurant. Customers murmured as I passed. A waiter offered me money to do the same with him. The tips are gone. I started to be treated like a nuisance, but still, Sue Walter didn't say anything. And that hurt me more than anything else, until the worst happened. It was a Tuesday, a day with little movement. The restaurant was calm, and I took the opportunity to organize the stock. I left my apron hanging in the kitchen and went to the back storage room. I stayed there for about 20 minutes. When I returned, the atmosphere was heavy. Donna Ivonette was waiting for me with her arms crossed and a hard look. "Camilla, we need to talk, now." We went to the office. There she was, Sue Walter and Paula. "What happened?" I asked nervously. Money happened to be missing from the cash register, and guess who was alone next to it? My eyes widened. "Are you saying I stole it?" "I'm saying it's strange. Very strange. And it's not the first time this has happened. But today we know for sure." "That's a lie. I never," Paula interrupted. "I saw her going to the register. She pretended to get her notebook." "I knew. That's why I kept an eye out." My heart felt like it was going to explode. My face burned. I wanted to scream, cry, disappear. But I took a deep breath and looked at Walter. He was silent. He looked at me with an expression that I didn't know how to decipher. "Mr. Walter, do you believe that?" He didn't respond. He just looked away. At that moment, everything inside me collapsed. "Camilla, you are suspended until further notice. We will investigate further. If nothing is proven, well, you can come back." I left the office staggering. My colleagues looked at me as if I were a virus. Like, I'm dirty. I took my bag and left. I arrived home in tears. My mother hugged me, listened to me, and for the first time in a long time, she cried with me. "Daughter, if you want to give up this job, that's fine. We'll find a way." But it wasn't just about the job. It was because of what was behind it all. For the humiliation, for the lack of justice, for cowardice, and mainly because of Walter's silence. The next day, not knowing what to do, I decided to go to Walter's house. I needed to understand, knowing why he had been quiet. Why had he allowed that to happen? But the one who opened the door was a woman. Brunette, gray hair and tired eyes. She seemed surprised to see me. "You're Camilla, aren't you?" "I am. Sorry to come like this. Come in, please." She offered me tea. We sat in the living room, and then she said, "My name is Vera. I'm Walter's wife." My heart raced. What was happening? "He's not well, Camilla. Since Paula made that accusation, he doesn't sleep, he doesn't eat properly, he feels guilty. But he didn't say anything. He remained silent because he's afraid. Afraid you'll hate him." "Why?" She looked me in the eyes. There was sadness there, and a truth about to be revealed. "Because you're his daughter, Camilla. He abandoned you many years ago, and now he's trying to make amends, even though he doesn't know how." The world spun. My body felt cold. Her words echoed like thunder in my mind. "How do you know?" He took a DNA test a few months ago. He suspected it ever since he saw your name on your resume. When he saw your photo, he was sure, but he was in shock. He didn't have the courage to tell you. He thought he could help you little by little, be close by, and maybe one day tell you. I got up. My legs were shaking. I need to think. I left that house without knowing who I was, not knowing what to believe, and yet, with a new feeling growing inside me. Maybe this war wasn't lost yet. Have you ever felt betrayed even by those who were supposed to protect you? Comment there. That night, I could barely sleep. Walter's wife's words kept ringing in my head like a broken bell that never stopped ringing. Daughter. I was his daughter. How was that possible? How could he have the courage to look me in the eyes for so many days and pretend that nothing existed between us? How could he have endured seeing me being humiliated, accused, despised, and still remained silent? I wanted to understand, but all I felt at that moment was emptiness, mixed with a pent-up anger that found no way to escape. My mother was waiting for me in the kitchen when I woke up, with a cold coffee on the table. She looked more tired than usual, but her eyes were serene. "He knows, right?" was the only thing she said. I nodded with a lump in my throat. "His wife told me everything?" I added. My mother sighed deeply. We were silent for a while. I knew that silence carried more than words. It was a silence full of pain, of difficult memories, of choices she had to make alone. A silence of someone who protected their daughter tooth and nail, even when the entire world turned its back. "Did he ever look for you?" I asked. She shook her head slowly. "Just a letter. When you were about 4 years old, he said he couldn't afford it, that he was trying to start his life over again." I tore it up. At the time, I could only think about you, about the future that I would have to build alone. And that's what I did. I looked at her hands, marked from so much work. Hands that embroidered, washed, served, carried heavy bags, which were never treated with the care they must by being deserved. I felt a wave of guilt, because part of me wanted to hear his side. Part of me was still the girl who dreamed of a father who would take her out for ice cream, who would pick her up from school, who would see her on stage at her first school performance. But now he was there, in my life, and I didn't know what to do with it. The next morning, I plucked up the courage and went back to the restaurant. When I entered, the hall fell silent. Some people lowered their heads, others pretended they didn't see me. But I walked steadily to the counter, where Sue Walter was, as always, in a white coat, cleaning the same space for the third time in a minute. He saw me, froze for a moment, and then tried to say something. "Camilla, we need to talk," I interrupted. We went to the office. The door closed and the air felt heavy. He sat down, but I remained standing. "Why?" I asked. My voice was firm, but I was shaking inside. "Why didn't you say anything?" He lowered his eyes. It seemed smaller, more fragile. "Because I didn't know if I had the right?" "I made a big mistake, Camilla. I abandoned you and your mother when you needed me most. At the time, I was a coward. I was afraid of responsibility, of failure, and then came the guilt. I spent years thinking about how to fix it. When you appeared, here with that determined look, with that strength, I saw a chance, but I lacked the courage to tell the truth. I just wanted to be close. And you were there watching all that happened to me?" My voice broke. "See me being humiliated, accused of stealing without saying anything? You knew who I was and still let them treat me like dirt?" He closed his eyes, as if my pain were a slap. He took a deep breath. "I failed again, because I was afraid of looking like I was only protecting you out of obligation, afraid of seeming like I wanted to buy your forgiveness with favors. I wanted you to be strong for yourself. And you were. You endured all of this with a dignity that I never had." I remained silent for a few seconds, trying to absorb it all. It still hurt. It still felt unfair. But for once, he was being sincere. I don't know if I can forgive you now," he said with teary eyes. "But I will decide what to do with this truth. For now, I just want justice to be served." Walter nodded, and at that moment, something changed in him. It was as if he accepted the consequences of his own mistakes, and there, for the first time, I saw courage in his eyes. In the afternoon of that same day, he gathered the entire team in the hall. I stood leaning against the back, watching. Paula was there, as always, with her arms crossed and that cynical look. "I wanted to make a statement," Walter began. "Recently, there was a very serious accusation against Camilla, and after an investigation, we discovered that it was all a setup. The money was found hidden in the cleaning closet, and there are cameras that show who put it there." Everyone murmured. Paula turned white. "Paula, you are fired for just cause. And if you want to argue, we can do it in court. I have enough proof." She tried to say something, but no one listened to her. He left the restaurant like a storm that loses strength at the end of the day. Walter turned to me with everyone, looking. "I also want to say something else. Camilla is more than an employee. She is my daughter. I found it too late, and I made a lot of mistakes, but I intend to make it right. Not out of favoritism, but out of justice." The hall fell silent. Then someone applauded, and little by little, more people joined. I left that day with a heavy, but strangely light heart. It was as if, for the first time, I wasn't just a shadow inside that restaurant. Months passed. I went back to work, but with a new attitude. I studied at night, with the support I didn't have before. Walter offered me money, but I only accepted a scholarship he had saved for the daughter he never had the courage to raise. It was enough. I finished law school 5 years later, and on the day of my graduation, he was there, in the back of the audience, giving me a standing ovation, not as a boss, not as someone who viewed me with pity, but as a father. A few years later, when he became ill and decided to retire, he called me for a talk. "The cafeteria is yours if you want." I looked at that place. Every corner had a story, each table a memory. I accepted, and I made changes. I renovated the facade, modernized the menu, treated each employee as I would have liked to have been treated. Today, when people ask me how I achieved all this, I only say one thing: never underestimate someone just because they wear an apron. Sometimes, it's the heart behind the uniform that's worth more than any title. If you believed in the turnaround, share it with someone who needs to hear this.